And well, actually, very, very, very soon. So just a reminder to everybody who is here. Hello, and welcome. Hello. All right, just a reminder to everybody who is here. Today, we're going to have a little bit of a shorter anime trivia because we have a really awesome guest over on YouTube and Facebook. Yehudi Mercado is going to be... Thank you. Is going to be here on Instagram, or I'm sorry, on YouTube and Facebook Live. So join us over there. So today is going to be just a little bit shorter, about 15 minutes, but we're still going to have fun. All right. So are we ready to get started, Monica?
I think so. And I also just want to add that this is our special pop culture edition of anime trivia. So we have a little bit of crossover, and I think we should get started. I've got the scoreboard ready. Let's fill it up.
All right, so we are here with our crossover anime. A lot of these are going to be, you'll see a whole bunch of different stuff. Just a reminder, summer reading is still happening. Get your free books for free book to read 5 books. Meals of the Library is still happening. Come and see our artists at the end. All right, let's get started. Oh, as always, everybody, we are Zoom versus Instagram versus Facebook versus YouTube. Let's see who wins today. All right, let's start with our first question. So we said this is a whole bunch of different things. So according to Sanrio, Hello Kitty does not have a mouth because why? Is it A, cat mouths are hard to draw? That's my favorite reason. B, money talks, mascots walk. Or C, she speaks from her heart. All right. So if you know the answer, put it in the chat. If you don't know the answer, place a guess. So I'm going to read that one more time. According to Sanrio, Hello Kitty doesn't have a mouth because A, cat mouths are hard to draw. B, money talks, mascots walk. Or C, she speaks from her heart. All right, so I see an answer from Zoom. I see an answer from YouTube. I see an answer from Facebook. I do not have anything from Instagram yet. Hopefully you guys can make a good guess for me. I'm going to say, we're just going to call it, because the answer is C.
Wait, hold on. C.
She speaks from her heart.
A real life
person. She doesn't have a mouth.
A real life person from YouTube said C. All right, so all are correct on the board. So 3 points with an even tie between Facebook, Zoom, and YouTube.
Awesome.
What's the next question?
All right, so our next question is, oh, by the way, just a reminder, we are always looking for pictures. That's why you see this beautiful teen artwork. If you have pictures, please share them with us at teen@saclibrary.org. All right, let's go to our next question. So My Hero Academia's All Might recently appeared in a manga featuring which Marvel character? Is it A, Deadpool? Is it B, Black Widow? Or C, Captain America? If you know the answer, put it in the chat. If you don't, place a really good guess and I'm sure you'll get close. Mm-hmm. All right. Ooh, I got an answer already on Instagram. Okay, so in My Hero Academia's All Might recently appeared in a manga which featured this Marvel character. Is it A, Deadpool, B, Deadpool, B, Black Widow, or C, Captain America? All right, so I don't see any answers yet from a whole bunch of different places.
Oh, maybe we have a difficult question.
I think we do have a difficult question. You guys, I have to tell you.
Zoom says C. They're taking a guess and going with C. All right. Anyone else?
Not in America yet. So this particular Marvel manga is actually going to show up at the end of the month. Or at the end of the year, I think.
Sophie Louis is guessing C since they're familiar. And Zoom is saying A.
Okay.
Ooh.
So yes, Captain America and All Might are kind of similar. All right. I'm going to give you guys all the answer. Are you ready? Oh, it looks like Zoom got it right. So My Hero Academia's All Might recently appeared in a manga featuring which Marvel character? Well, it's Deadpool. So we're talking Samurai Deadpool. I cannot wait to see it in America in English, which we will hopefully see in, I think, October. So
I just love
that was a rough question.
Yeah, it was really hard. So good job for everyone guessing. And I just love a good crossover.
I love a good crossover.
Love a good crossover, right?
Apparently, Marvel is doing a whole bunch of different manga with Marvel is doing manga. All right, so it looks like only Zoom got that one right, but that's okay. The rest of everybody can catch up real quick.
That's
all right,
okay.
Let's go to our next question.
Yes, I'm excited about this one.
All right, you guys, this is another crossover because we're loving crossovers right now. So the Steven Universe episode, Beach City Drift, features an unsanctioned hilltop race in the parody of which anime? So we're talking about, so the Beach City Drift looks a little bit like this anime. Okay, are you ready? Is it A, initial D, B, Redline, or C, Speed Racer? If you know the answer, put it in the chat. If you don't, place a guess. I'm sure that you will have a really good guess. Okay. All right. And these are some older ones, so this is going to be fun. Okay, so in the Steven Universe episode, Beach City Drift. No, let me start that over again. The Steven Universe episode, Beach City Drift, features an unsanctioned hilltop race in the parody of which anime? Is it A, initial D, B, Redline, or C, Speed Racer? Ooh, drifting. I see that Sophia on Facebook says A because of drifting. That might be it. I got a question mark on a B for Instagram and nothing in from YouTube. YouTube also says A. I don't know, Instagram, what do you think? Are you going to change your answer maybe? No? All right.
That's cool.
That's cool. So in the Steven Universe episode, Beach City Drift, it features a hilltop race and similar to A, initial D. All right, you got this. Hey, that's okay. Instagram, there's always next month too, which will be awesome. Okay.
So Garrison Weeks says that Steven Universe should be watched by everyone, and I wholeheartedly agree. I haven't made it this far in the storyline, but I'm totally on board with that. What's the next question, Kim?
All right, so our next question has to do with an isekai. Okay, so you know what? I need to switch that for my Instagram writers. Watchers. Okay, so which isekai is not included in the first season of the anime Isekai Quartet? Okay, so there are 4 isekai shows in Isekai Quartet, the first season. Okay, which one is not included in that one? Is it A, Konosuba, B, That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, or C, Re:Zero? If you know the answer, put it in the chat. If you don't, place a guess. Instagram has already given me an answer, and I have to say, Instagram, that is correct. So good job. All right, so I'm going to read that one more time. Which isekai is not included in the first season of the anime Isekai Quartet? Is it A, Konosuba, B, That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, or C, Re:Zero? All right, so I got answers from Zoom and Facebook and Instagram, not YouTube yet. Keep fighting, YouTube. But, hey, YouTube just came in.
Yeah.
All right, so the answer is B, That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. So you guys are doing great.
Nice. Also, I'm always like, well, the longest answer has to be the right answer. Why not?
The longest answer always has to be the right answer. Okay. All right, you guys. You're probably right. Let's go to our next one.
Yeah.
All right. So in Street Fighter, we're the video game, right?
Yeah.
Ghoulie, I don't even know how to say that name. Sorry, everybody. Ghouliel's overall appearance Guy's overall appearance was initially based on which anime character? Is it A, Hanma from Baki?
Oh, Guile.
Okay.
Guile.
B, Draken from Tokyo Revengers, or C, Jean-Pierre Polnareff. Oh my gosh.
Jean-Pierre Polnareff
from JoJo's. All right, you guys, if you know anything about Street Fighter and the titles that we put up here, you could probably place a really good guess. But I'm going to read that one more time. In Street Fighter, Guile's overall appearance was initially based on which anime character? Is it A, Hanma from Baki, B, Draken from Tokyo Revengers, or C, Jean-Pierre Polnareff from JoJo's? I tell you what, JoJo's I always fell on. Okay,
it's okay.
So the answer to our question is C, JoJo's. It makes sense to me because all the rest of them are like totally new. All right, but you guys, let's see.
We got Zoom in the lead with 4 points. YouTube and Facebook tied 3-3, and Instagram has 1 point on the board.
I'm going to give Instagram that one. Instagram's got 2 points on the board. All right.
Oh, 2 points. Okay, 2 points on the board.
2 points on the board for Instagram.
Okay. Got it.
Oh, Sophia said C, so we have fixed it. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, producers.
Thank you.
What's the next question? These are really fun questions, by the way.
They are fun. They are also really challenging for me. So I hope it's challenging for you guys too, or not. I hope it's easier. Maybe next month it'll be even easier. Okay, so let's go to our next question. Hey, so the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation was adapted into what drama? So this is also like a donghua, manhwa, audio drama, lots of things. Okay.
Many things.
Many things. And amazing. And from a country that's not Japan this time. Woohoo! All right, so we have, is it adapted into Lore Olympus, True Beauty, or C, The Untamed? All right, so the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation was adapted into what drama? Is it A, Lore Olympus, B, True Beauty, or C, The Untamed? I already have an answer from Instagram, and it is correct. So I don't see any other questions from answers from anybody else, though.
Yeah, and because we have a special guest today, this is going to be our last question before we get to the video segment. So type in those answers if you got them, and this will be for the month of July. Who will win?
Who will win? Anime trivia, because this one is short this time, but that's okay, short and sweet. And join us over on YouTube or Facebook for our awesome interview. Monica is going to interview us. So if you're on Instagram and you've never seen Monica, this is your opportunity to meet them, and they are amazing. Okay,
thanks.
So the answer to our question is the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation was adapted into what drama? It's C, The Untamed.
All right, YouTube.
Like everybody got that one right. How are we doing? All right,
Sophie Louis. Okay, C question mark, C exclamation point. So right now, for the month of July, we have a three-way tie between Facebook, Zoom, and YouTube, with Instagram in second place. Great job, y'all.
Hey, excellent. All right. Well, I have to end this one with at least one music choice video.
Okay.
Can you name this anime? Okay, you guys.
Oh, yeah. This is a good one, y'all.
So the reason why I picked this one is, as you will see, there might be skateboarding in it. And guess what? The Olympics for the first time ever has skateboarding. So I'm really excited about that. Not only is it because the Olympics are in Japan, which of course we all love Japan. They have skateboarding. All right, you guys, are you ready for our first question?
Yes.
So can you name this anime? Is it Skate the Infinity, Return of the Kings, or Gleaming the Cube? All right, you guys, I'm going to go play it now.
I just want to shake my shoulders when I see it. I just want to shake my shoulders. I just want to shimmy, 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 shimmy. And then get on a deck and then fall off because I have no coordination. All right. Looks like some answers are coming in, Kim.
What do you guys think? Okay, so we are at Skate the Infinity, K, Return the Kings, or Gleaming the Cube. All right.
Leah gave us A with like 4 exclamation points. Very confident in that answer.
Oh, yeah. That's some good stuff. If you have not seen this one yet, I gotta say, I love it so much. Okay, so you guys, can you name this anime? It is... Wait, do we have answers from everybody? Not yet. Well, you says whatever it is, I want to watch it. Oh, good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me too. I was like, this is cool.
Okay, so here we go. Can you name this anime? It is A, Skate the Infinity.
So Facebook got it. And
Instagram
then
got it. All right, you guys.
YouTube, right? Yeah.
Everybody got it. So it looks like we're going to end with a 4-way tie this time around. But guess what? We will be back next month.
Always.
Always next month. We'll be back next month. We also have a whole bunch of really cool Artist Alley programs for you to see. All right. So I am going to put up our guest. Join us now visiting our guests over at Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. If you want to get on to our Zoom and you are a teenager, email us at teen@saclibrary.org. So again, join us on Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube. So, and today or next time, same place, same time, we'll be here. Thank you for joining us today. You guys did such a great job. Congratulations.
Yes.
Join us over for Yehudi Mercado. So see you next time.
All right. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
And now an interview with writer, artist, director, Yehudi Mercado.
Hello.
Hello. Are we on video break? Or we're rolling into it?
You're rolling.
All right, cool. Thank you for that transparency. Hi, I'm Monica, and I'm a librarian with Sacramento Public Library. And I want to say a big howdy today to Yehudi Mercado, who's joining us on our special Artist Alley segment. How's it going, Yehudi?
It's going great. Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yeah, thanks.
I didn't know any of those questions, by the way. So,
we always tell people, take a guess, because there's a 33.3333 chance of you getting it.
Mathematical. Yeah,
mathematics, man. But yeah, it's always good to just kind of take a guess and make an effort. Yeah. But thanks for listening in on our
it was fun.
On our trivia. We get really into it, as you can tell. We're like,
no, that was
we're very
exciting.
much into it. So speaking of getting into it, we have some questions brought to you by the Sacramento Public Library teens. So these teens have participated in either Teen Advisory, or they're like our regulars in the branches. And we told them, hey, we have an artist animator coming on. Do you have any questions? And they just all poured in. Nice. They all poured in. So how about you tell a little blurb about yourself? Get to talk about yourself for a second, and then we'll dive into the questions.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Yehudi Mercado. I live in Burbank, California right now. I'm a writer, artist, animator, director, working with graphic novels, middle grade graphic novels, and writing for animation. And I also am running a narrative podcast for kids called Hero Hotel. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes. And also, I heard that you're a former pizza delivery driver. So I have my Ninja Turtle t-shirt on today.
Excellent.
To summon the powers of pizza for this interview.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I always like throwing in that I'm a former pizza delivery driver. I always think it's funny that that's part of my resume.
Yeah. And then you also put in your dogs too in your comics, right? You have to look for them. Power read Chunky, and I forgot to look for the dogs. I know they're there because you said they're there.
Are they in Chunky? They might not be in Chunky, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. Controversy. Yeah.
Controversy. It's
but Chunky, he looks like my dog Bosco. The way he smiles and kind of how shaggy he is.
Yeah, very
has the same personality. Yeah.
That very high energy. How would you explain Chunky? Because that's your latest book, yeah?
It just came out a couple weeks ago. Yeah. So Chunky is it's a memoir. It's a graphic novel memoir based on my childhood in Houston, Texas, and sort of my way to go, Houston, and my struggles with weight. And I was a heavy kid, and I was terrible at sports. So the whole structure of the story is that when I was young, my parents really needed me to lose weight because of all of my health issues also. So I have my partial lung was removed as a child. So I have one lung. And so it was always like, a concern, with my weight and like how that would affect my lungs. So they wanted me to lose weight. And so they enrolled me in a bunch of sports. And of course, I'm terrible at sports. And so that's the structure of the book, is like every chapter is me trying out for a different sport, being terrible at it. But then I concoct this sort of imaginary mascot for myself. And his name is Chunky. And he cheers me on and like makes me feel good about myself, no matter how many times I fall on my face.
Yeah. And like, I was just like, man, Chunky is such like a great little personal cheerleader. And what I appreciate about the Chunky graphic novel memoir is that there's a little narrator. Yeah. So it's like reading that visual of there's a microphone and it's like a narrator, and I can hear like the big megaphone sound in my head. And then Chunky's there with you.
Yeah. I wanted it to feel like almost like a sports comedy. So like my life as a kid is being like color commented on by like a sportscaster.
And that's really perfect too. And that little, because you grew up in Texas, I grew up in Texas, and it was really great. Just like the first page opening up, like, oh my gosh, Houston, it's amazing.
Well, and it's such a big sports town too. Like, football in Texas is a religion, right? Like, like there's no avoiding it. So like, Houston has the Rockets, and even they have like a soccer team now. Arrows,
it's wild.
And
it's like
they used to have a hockey team, a professional hockey team. I don't think they have that anymore. But like
Dallas Stars, I want to say they're still there.
Yeah,
I should know this.
Yeah.
We should know this.
Exactly. But yeah, so sports were huge, and it just felt like, and then also my father was and is still an amazing athlete. Like he can still beat me at tennis. Like he's in his 70s, and I can't stand a chance against him. But so living in his shadow of being athletic and me like being terrible at sports, that also is woven throughout the story. Yeah. But yeah, not many books or graphic novels are set in Texas, right? I feel like
it
hasn't been explored that much yet.
Yeah, there's a really great author, artist, Raul III, and his book is like Vamos a Market, takes place in El Paso, and that's where my grandparents live. Oh, nice. So like seeing that's really cool. But other than that, like I haven't really like seen some really like things that like I could identify with as like a Latinx kid, Latinx Texas kid. Also, you grew up Jewish.
I'm Jewish.
Yehudi.
Yeah. So it's funny, like, feeling like an outsider kind of in both, demographics. I think that helped me with like being observant and like observing behavior and sort of feeling like an outsider looking in. And that's helped me sort of become a writer. I feel like that's like having that removal, like it helps you like see something from afar and then like, explore it.
Yeah, I kind of get the like idea as someone like I also do art, so it's like thinking about like watching people, and then also being to just like act out your own scene. So you're like making faces in the mirror, or like holding up props, and someone walks by, and you're just like making a reference.
Yeah.
Oh, don't mind me.
My camera roll on my phone is like weird selfies of me like posing for things to like try to draw later. Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of performance, you have you had this drive for like being on Saturday Night Live as a kid. Yeah. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. Like as a young kid, we were exposed early to lots of comedies and like SNL and like, that was just like sketch comedy and like not necessarily stand up, but more like sketch comedy, like SNL style was really what I wanted to do. And like, even in high school, junior high and high school, that's when I got into theater. And I was always more interested in like writing and performing comedy sketches than doing like the full on, like, Romeo and Juliet and stuff like that. But and then, so I did a lot of acting in junior high and high school, and I was always drawing as a kid. So I was always drawing my own cartoon characters and comic strips. But then once I got to college, that's when I sort of married the acting and the drawing, and then got into animation.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. It's like, how do you make that jump? It's just like, I'm going to just do it. It's like, that actually makes a lot more more sense of how to get there. So speaking of getting there, I was wondering if you could pull up your art and then I could ask you some questions from the teens. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let me show you like a very rough pass of Sci-Fu book 2.
Yes.
So there's a little sneak preview. So this is, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to do a plug like, hey, if you haven't gotten this copy, Sacramento Public Library, Libby, Hoopla, and physical copies.
Yeah. Pick up Sci-Fu. It's fun. Mm-hmm. So this is actually my first sequel book, like because Sci-Fu did so well. It was my first sequel. So it was interesting because like, the premise of Sci-Fu, it's a hip hop, sci-fi, kung fu musical. And it's about a kid who wants to be a DJ. And one night he scratches the perfect beat on his turntable. And that summons a UFO, takes him to a robot planet where he has to fight all these robots in order to get back home. Yeah. And so I always describe it as a hip hop Wizard of Oz. So it's like this, he's like Dorothy, gets, a stranger in a strange land, has this crazy adventure, then finally gets back to Brooklyn. Yeah. And so the sequel is all about like, okay, now that he disrupted the entire planet, robot planet, now what? He's the king of Dystopia, this robot planet, but he doesn't want, he's a normal human kid. He's like, I don't want to be the king of a planet. So he gets back to Brooklyn, and now every alien in the galaxy is after him, because if they take him out, they become the king. So it's sort of him, not, shirking the responsibility of being king, but then sort of having to own up to, well, I created this problem, so I got to step up. So that's sort of like the conflict of book 2. Mm-hmm. I sort of start with thumbnailing, and I actually set a big scene in the Brooklyn Public Library because I'm a big fan of libraries.
Yay! Thank you.
Yeah. And I lay out the whole book like this, like with thumbnail sketches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know like every artist process is different. Like some people, I've seen artists like write in a sketchbook, and they like write out a movie script, and then some people do like rough drafts. You're actually one of the first artists I'm seeing that does like a digital rough. Yeah. Of like your of what would be like your big outline.
Yeah. And it helps me too with like the pacing of the story, because I draw this all in Adobe Animate, which isn't supposed to be an animation tool. You're not really supposed to lay out a book in it, but because I like to see my book on an actual timeline, so that I can sort of flip back and forth through the book, and like at a glance I can see like, oh, all of Act 1 is taking up 60% of the book. I need to like trim Act 1 so that you get into the story sooner. So I can sort of see it at a glance at like a macro level.
Yeah. So I think this is a good time to ask a question, and we can still look at your art. Natalie asks, how long did it take you to build the confidence to show other people your art?
Well, I knew I could, like, because I was always drawing as a kid. And also me and both my sisters, like, were always drawing. And then at some point they sort of fell off and like stopped drawing, which I always thought they should have stuck with. But for some reason, I just kept going. And then that sort of became my thing in school. Like I could draw funny pictures for kids and then make them laugh and then make friends that way. So I knew like I had something there that like people were responding to. But really like professionally, because it was all through college, like taking like the fine arts classes, and then like really like refining my skills. It really took through college, and then taking animation classes at a community college at the same time as going to UT for fine arts. I just sort of was building up this whole like skill set where I could do the fine art stuff, but then I also knew like all the computer like programs to generate art. So I actually got a full-time job in video games like before I even graduated high school. Nice. So that's kind of when I knew like, oh, okay, I'm onto something. Like I'm good at this. And yeah, just creating worlds and characters at that video game company. It validated sort of my thinking that I am good at this. Like I can do this for a living.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that people forget about is when you go to art school, like because you'll have like you're into comics, you're into like anime, you're into like manga, but you still have to like take beginning drawing and beginning painting and color theory. And it's like, and it's kind of like the quote boring things. Right. And it's not until you apply it, you're like, oh, that's why like Star Wars makes sense in color themes.
It's fine, when you're sort of starting and learning to draw and like just doodling, it's fine for you to sort of like, mimic anime you like and manga you like and characters you like. But yeah, it's really when you are tasked with like creating a new style of your own, that's when you need to rely on those skills you learn in like real art classes.
Yes. So speaking of skills and confidence, Cassandra's question is, how did you build up the confidence to create your own comic books or get your works for sale?
So it was really at that video game company. So when I was working at that company, I was just sort of like an animator, character designer. And then our bosses wanted us to help pitch original games to these software companies. And so I came up with this idea called First Daughter. And it was going to be this sort of action side-scrolling game where the mythology was like, you are the daughter of the president. And it was kind of like Mission Impossible. So like, and the sort of premise was that it was all the first daughters throughout history were really the ones like saving the day and being like cool action spies. So it had a little bit of that Buffy the Vampire Slayer feel of like sort of overlooked girl is really the badass, saving the world at night. Like, so like, I came up with the whole idea, the characters, and then actually Hasbro was going to turn it into a PlayStation game.
Oh snap. Yeah. They're a really big name.
Yeah. But then eventually, it didn't happen. Hasbro wanted to concentrate on their own board games. But that was sort of my first taste of like, oh, I created a world that this giant company, Hasbro, liked and wanted. Like, I feel like I can do this for a living. And like sort of from there, Sci-Fu was actually the next thing I created.
Oh, nice.
So, and it took such a long time of pitching it to, Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. And it wasn't until Oni Press was interested in me, like pitching them graphic novels, that I was like, hey, I got this crazy idea of like hip hop, sci-fi, kung fu musical. And they were like, yeah, we love it. Let's do it. So
yeah, I think you pitched to the right publisher. As someone who like, I'm into comics too, and into things. And sometimes it's like, if you want like dark gothic kind of things, it's going to be Slave Labor Graphics. If you want something that's kind of like alternative but different, like Oni Press seems like a really good one. And that was Natalie's other question. She was like, how many publishers rejected your work, and did you end up publishing yourself?
So my first one, so then after games, I was getting into animation and writing, and I actually wrote a screenplay based on my time as a pizza delivery driver. It was called Buffalo Speedway. And it was all about the busiest pizza day ever. And so I wrote it as a screenplay. I submitted it to different places and actually won second place in the final draft big break contest. And so that was huge. It was like, got flown out to LA, and it was a big ceremony, and met with agents and Hollywood folk. And it got optioned, but then nothing ever happened. And so when I got the option back, I decided like, I need to do something with this story. It's too good to just like let sit around. So then that's when I self-published a graphic novel. So I drew out a whole graphic novel based on my screenplay and then self-published it. And I went around to conventions and set up my table and like was like really like pitching it hard. And I think I got noticed by like Oni Press and other publishers because my table because it was a graphic novel about pizza delivery drivers. I actually packaged it in pizza boxes. So my table had all these pizza boxes, and I had pizza sign that lit up. And so I had a good presentation. So people, these publishers got to know me on the Comic-Con circuit. And that's really how I got started. It was really like, I pitched it around, like no one knew who I was. No one, there's no comic books about pizza delivery drivers. Like, like it's not like your standard thing. So like, I had to self-publish it.
Yeah, I'm making faces because I'm trying to figure out who the hip hop artists are in the background of this one, and I'm I recognize the MTV raps from like 1990s.
Yeah,
MTV.
That's Fab Five Freddy, and then Salt and Peppa.
Nice.
And then LL Cool J.
Oh, baby LL.
Yeah.
When he was Babyface.
Yeah, and then LL, and then Run DMC.
Nice.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like a question that you can talk about, but do you want to explain what an ash can is to our teens? Because that's something that people use a lot for getting into the comic business.
It's sort of like a zine or an ash can. It's sort of like a self-published mini comic, and that's a really great calling card. And that's what I tell people like all the time, like when they want to get into comics. It's like, start with a 4 or 6 page story, finish that project, write it, draw it, staple it together, finish it, have someone read it, and then put it aside and move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Like the most important thing is like, just finish a project. Like I know so many people who like, they want their first graphic novel to be this like 300 page epic. And it's like, no one's going to read that. Like write a 6 page story. And if that's compelling and great, then these publishers will, be willing to like take a chance on a little bit of a longer book.
Yeah. Like a chapter or an issue at a time.
Yeah. And I feel like now, like, it's so easy to like put stuff up online and self-publish that. It's easier than ever.
I feel like that older artist who's like, back in my day, we just had deviant art and live journal. And now it's like you have like Tumblr and Instagram. So we have a question that came in from Zoom just now. Rita wanted to know, is there an inspiration for your style?
Yeah, I would say like Gendy Tartakovsky. I don't know if people know who he is. He's an animation director. He helped create Dexter's Laboratory in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
And Powerpuff Girls and Samurai Jack. And has a new one called Primal. And he also directed all the Hotel Transylvania movies. So I feel like he was a huge influence on me because he had that that style that just stood out and was very graphic and like sharp lines. And it was just like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh my God, this guy's the best.
Yeah.
And Bruce Timm, like the guy that designed the characters for Batman, the animated series in the 90s.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I can definitely see that thick, heavy black outline in your artwork and it and the colors too. It makes you think that because Hanna-Barbera did that for a long time where it's like thick lines and it just kind of like transcended into something else. Yeah, for sure.
But I like to have a lot of movement in my pages too.
Yeah.
So I was like, I never like 2 characters just standing there talking. Like I like to have like action scenes, a lot of movement.
It's great for indie comics if it's just like they're having a conversation. But action, it's like you got to have like a little bit of movement and like blam and all that. So I think the big burning question that came up that Cassandra asked was, how did you get to work for such a famous animation studio like Disney?
Oh. Well, it was Disney Interactive. That was the key. Like, so I was living, I always worked in games and then casual games. Like those were sort of the more cartoony, like casual games were always like my bread and butter. And then I bought a studio, Playdom. So Disney bought this studio called Playdom, and I was working there in Austin, and then was working there and making casual games. And then they basically laid everybody off but me.
Oh,
and
snap.
so I was like, if I'm going to work remotely anyway, then can I just move myself to the Glendale campus and then work there? And so I did that. And then that's when I worked on like the Guardians of the Galaxy mobile game.
Mm.
And that was really fun. That was sort of the highlight of my games career. Cause like I got to co-write that game and art direct. And I got to read the screenplay for Guardians of the Galaxy before like the trailer came out. And
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
There's some definite perks with working for Disney.
Oh yeah, I miss the blue badge. The blue badge is like your employee badge that basically got you and 3 guests into Disneyland and Disney World for free. Like,
that would be amazing.
Yeah, you can bring 3 people off the street with you. It was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow. You have like a couple more questions coming back and forth from like the list, and so I think we're going to be like bouncing around a bit.
Oh yeah.
Cassandra asked, how hard is it to stick with an idea after being rejected multiple times?
Yeah, that's key. You have to, and that's why like my ideas, I try to come up with ideas that only I can do, like that are real, like, Sci-Fu, I feel like is something like only I could have brought to the page. It's basically captures everything I loved as a kid, hip hop, sci-fi, kung fu, all mashed together. So it's really like, it has to be a story that you have to be kind of compelled to finish. Like it has to bother you. It has to like, you can't sleep at night unless you finish this project. Like, because otherwise, like you're never going to finish it. Like writing and drawing and completing entire like 200-page graphic novel is time consuming. It's taxing on your body. It's hard physically to like sit at a desk for 10 hours and draw. Like, so, it has to be something that you are passionate about or you're never going to finish it. And so the more personal you make it, the more authentic you make it to yourself, then the more you will push yourself to complete it. So yeah, I've gotten a lot of rejections over the years, but it's really like the screenplay I wrote. Like, yeah, it won this screenwriting contest, but it never got made into a movie. So then I decided like I'm going to turn that into a graphic novel because this is too good. Like, and it's a compulsion after a while.
Yeah, and we're like living in this like pop culture time where there's like we're remaking things, or there's like part 2 or part 3, and it's just like telling our teens like original ideas are still like fan fiction is valid, and like but also like if you have a unique story, like go with it.
Yeah,
like go with it.
Yeah, and even like because I love Star Wars, and then my book,
Star Wars,
my other book, Rocket Salvage. I don't know if you can see that. So
Rocket Salvage, there it is.
So Rocket Salvage is basically like my Star Wars spec script. Like it's like what I would do with Star Wars characters, but I just sort of made them my own, and then made my own adventure. Yeah.
So speaking of adventures, Rosalind asked, who was there with you for this whole crazy journey? Were you ever criticized for doing comics?
Oh yeah. Like even like drawing in school, I would get in trouble all the time for like drawing, during class. And then even at University of Texas at Austin, like that fine arts department, like as soon as I mentioned animation, they were like, what, are you kidding me? Like, no, like we don't do that. So that's why I had to take the animation classes at Austin Community College. So, but I just always felt like they were wrong. Like I just like, this is what I like to do. Like, it doesn't seem like that crazy of an endeavor. Like, and then I actually, my father, he's an architect and an artist, and he paints. But like, I would see him have these jobs in these architecture firms, and then he'd get laid off eventually. So like at a young age, I saw that like, oh, these giant companies, they don't have your best interest at heart. So like growing up, I had that little nugget inside of me that felt like, oh, I have to self-generate stuff because, I can't rely on some giant company to just give me a job and then I can be fulfilled that way. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. We also have another question. Ali asks, like, who do you see as your role model? And who was your main supporter throughout your career?
Oh wow.
Yeah, we're hitting the deep questions.
Yeah, the deep stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because like I took such a weird path, I feel like, that I never really had like that mentor that really like understood what I did. I mean, my first art director when I worked at that video game company, his name was Blake Bush. And he's so like basically how I got that job, like before I even graduated from college, was I was taking an animation class at ACC. We all had our like animation shorts for our finals, like all on one tape. It was back in VHS videotape days.
Oh, wow.
And so he was watching for someone else, for another student who had applied for this job, and they accidentally let the tape run long, and he saw mine. And he's like, whoa, who's this guy? And he said, like, yeah, have Mike and Yehudi, like, call me next week because we have one opening for an animator.
Whoa.
And I happened to call first.
Oh,
that sort of like, I always, that's the sort of like sliding doors version of my life. Had I sort of like sat on it and then waited, like, then what would have happened? Like, so it was really like calling first, being sort of aggressive and like being confident, got me that job. And then from there, then it was like creating First Daughter, getting known by like Hasbro. So like, I felt like that guy alone, like helped me so much. But yeah, right now, like we have biggest champion, like one of my best friends from junior high, his name's Jamie Dooner. Yeah, he's always been like sort of my champion. And now he lives in LA also. And yeah, so.
I was thinking it was going to be like, you're like, oh yeah, Eddie from Chunky. And I'm like, oh, you're still friends with him?
Yeah. No, I'm still friends with a lot of people from, in fact, like Chunky 2, I'm working on Chunky Book 2 right now also. That takes place in Waco, Texas, where I went to Jewish summer camp.
Oh man.
So that one has a lot of like people I'm still in touch with. So I need to make sure they're cool with me putting them in the book.
Oh yeah. Those camp friends though, I feel like they would support.
Yeah.
So speaking of support, Ivy wanted to know if there's any particular encouraging moments from your life that you've tried to communicate through your works.
Yeah. It's funny because like, so yeah, I keep going back to this video game company that I started.
Yeah.
So like, I was definitely like the youngest employee there, right? So like everyone else was like it felt like they
really
were like 10 years older than me, but they probably weren't. But
I feel like video game like staff would be young.
Yeah.
Like younger.
But so like we were working on Schoolhouse Rock games, and they were very cartoony. So that's why they needed my sort of like cartoony style. And these like serious like game designer guys were like all like hunched over a table, like racking their brain over this problem. And basically like the progress meter, the meta game was like this board game style. And so one of the fun power-ups was you're in a van. It was the Lucky Seven, the rabbit from Schoolhouse Rock, who was like in a band. So that was the whole game. It was like you're this band traveling in this van, and like one of the cool, like if you get this right, like lets you skip ahead, was you got to go to an airport, and then it sort of teleported you to like 5 steps ahead. And these guys were like, oh, like how are we going to do that? Like, how does that make sense? Are they going to leave the van? They were like overthinking it, like all these like like PhD like game designers like really overthinking this problem. I'm like, so I just walk up and I was like, oh, what if you just had the van sprout wings? It does a cool flying animation and lands 5 steps ahead. And they're like, that's brilliant. Like I was like, that's cartoons. Like you guys were overthinking this way too much. So like being able to solve that problem that quickly, like with cartooniness, like I feel like that sort of like triumphant moment, like I'm like I always try to think of like something like that I can put into a book, like, but it's kind of hard to like, I don't know. It's like,
yeah. Roll 20 for initiative, grow wings, fly out
exactly.
of there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of our viewers asked, can we hear more, just a little bit more what it means to art direct and what that is?
Yeah. So like at that company, we were working on a lot of like different properties. So like we would work on SpongeBob games. We would work on Rugrats games. We worked on one of the first 3D versions of Mickey Mouse.
Wow.
In games, and then Pixar games. So like working with all these different styles, I had to really like get used to drawing in different styles and really like making sure, that all the artists and animators submitting scenes and characters all felt cohesive. So that's sort of what the art director does. It tries to make everything feel like it's of the same voice. Making sure styles are consistent, and then there's that side of like making like it aesthetically look, pleasing and unified. And then also like, okay, we're under this kind of a time crunch and this kind of a budget crunch. How do we get this done with these resources? So it's sort of those two aspects. And I feel like managing artists helped me sort of like self-manage my time in like, being able to get these like as many graphic novels done as like I have been able to get done.
Yeah. So speaking of going back in time, Kai asks, what is a piece of advice you would want to give for those who want to start putting together comic books or graphic novels?
Definitely like start small. Like I said, like start with that 4-page, 6-page comic book zine, write it, finish it, color it, hand it to someone to read, and then immediately start on your next one. Like that's the most important thing, is like finishing a product. Yeah.
And Jordan asks, what is your favorite piece of art that you've created?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Pick your favorite child.
I know.
Yehudi.
That is a tough one. I was kind of proud of this page. This was a lot of detail. Like,
yeah, your exteriors are really nice. Like, I'm always like, yes.
Wow. I think this spread is like one of my favorites. This sort of like underground subway, moody like scene, and then these robots sort of working on each other. And then this is the bad guy from book 1. You finally realize he's still alive.
Oh no! Spoiler alert!
Spoiler, yeah.
Yeah.
Him standing in front of this big Brooklyn neon sign, like I don't know, yeah.
It's really dope. I'm definitely getting I'm not saying it's exactly this, but it's definitely giving me like the Miles Morales vibes of like when he's in there and he's like spray painting with his uncle in the subway. Yeah. It's just like, that's the total vibe I get. So it's a very successful like communicator.
Thanks. Yeah, like with that Spider-Verse movie, like when I saw that, it was, I had 2 very drastic reactions. One, I think it's the greatest superhero movie ever made, hands down.
Oh my gosh, so
one
good.
Of the best animated films ever made. But then also I was like crushed because like that's what I wanted to do with Sci-Fu. And I felt like they got to the mountaintop before I did. It's like everything I saw, like I was like, holy crap, like the touches, like everything kind of looking like graffiti, like it's like that's exactly what I was like, I've been pitching for like 20 years to these companies, and like finally like someone did it. But it actually opened up a lot of doors. Like that finally showed people like, oh, this is possible. So like I have to thank Spider-Verse also.
Yes, thank you Spider-Verse. Thank you Sony Pictures. So something that comes up quite a bit in art circles is art school. Like, do you need to go to art school to be an artist? Do you need to go to art school to be an art director? Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think you do. I definitely recommend it, because it's not just the sort of tactical skills that you're learning, but you're learning to communicate because when you go to art school, you have to like sort of present your art and explain it. And so being able to synthesize your thoughts is very important, and working with people and getting to know people. is very important, because what you're doing in art school is you are building your team. You are establishing connections with people and networking with people that will hopefully follow you through your whole career. So it's like, when one friend gets this job and needs to hire an animator, they're like, oh, I knew this guy from school. Let's check out his stuff. So it's that's like 80% of it, for sure. So it's like, yeah, like rising with your class is very important.
Yeah, and also like one of the experiences I remember is like learning how to talk about art and how to communicate what you're trying to say. How do you, like, you're communicating a piece, but like, how do you communicate visually without explaining it? Like having it opened up for interpretation. And with comics, it's like a different thing, because it's like you have like a letterer and a colorist and a writer, but when you're doing all of it at once, it's like this different, it's a different experience.
Yeah.
I just always remember being like, oh, wow, like, what kind of pens do you use? Like, what kind of pencils do you use? Like, are you using Tombos? It's like, oh, no, I just use Sharpie. Like, you get to learn what works for you.
Yeah. And I do miss that aspect of like being in a cubicle farm with all kinds of artists where you can like look over the wall, see what they're doing. And like, whenever you're stuck on something, like I miss that aspect of it. Like,
we've been having, with the pre-pandemic, we were having tween comic clubs, and the one that I hosted at my branch was like, we talked about tools, and we talked about like Copic pens and Tombos, and just being like, you can also make art with Bic pens and pencils. But that's something we really miss. And also, teens, we do have zine. So if you want to make an ash can, we do have zine kits at some branches. So you can try your hand at making a zine and maybe making an ash can. And
those special staplers are expensive.
Oh, it's like a little mini zine. It's like 2 pages.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. So I'm noticing the time, and we're so excited that you're here. I want to just ask maybe like 2-3 more questions before we call time, and feel free to keep scrolling through the images. Natalie asked, did you ever think your only option was to quit art? If yes, how did you get out of that low period?
Oh, yeah. Boy, how did I get out of that low period? I guess it's like, what I did was sort of set these sort of goalposts for myself. So especially like when we had conventions, like we could go to these comic book conventions pre-pandemic, you have to buy your table like months and months ahead of time. So like when I self-published Buffalo Speedway, there's a indie comic con in Austin, Texas called Staple. Staple comic.
Staple.
It's great. Yeah.
Little indie press.
Yeah. And so like I went there as a guest, and I was like, okay, by next year, I want to have volume 1 of Buffalo Speedway. So then I sort of worked backwards from that, and was like, okay, then I need to get it to a printer by this date so that I have books, for this date. And okay, if I need to get the PDF to a printer by this date, then how many pages do I need to get done a week to make that date? So like, I sort of worked myself backwards. So that's what I kept doing, is like it's almost like sort of calling my shot, and like, okay, I want to finish Hero Hotel by this date, to be published. And that's sort of like that drive and that sort of pressure I put on myself sort of like gets me out of that funk and that low of feeling like, no one cares about this. Like no one's buying my books, but like, you have that pressure that you put on yourself. And then also that compulsion of like, I just need to finish this. Like, so that like, I have this idea, it's called Hero Hotel, a kid who works in a hotel for superheroes, but they're all jerks. So like, I just want to get that out and like have it out in the marketplace and like be done with. Cause it's like, it's been like nesting in my head for too long. So.
Yeah. And that's like the thing about like being artists. And it's just like, you're your harshest critic, but also like, but I have this idea and
Yeah.
you got to get it out.
Yeah, you have to be a little bit delusional also. Like, yeah.
So Jordan was wondering, do you have any advice of where to start when creating your own story?
Yeah, I would make it like have one foot in a personal story,
Mhm,
and make sure it's like a personal story only you can tell.
mhm,
And then you can sort of take the nugget of that, and then you could sort of add ornamentation on top of that. So like Sci-Fu, at its heart, it's this kid who's a DJ, makes music. No one else likes it, and he's kind of he's shy to share that music with this girl he has a crush on. So like at its heart, that's what the story is about. And then by the end of the story, sharing that music and feeling that confidence gives him this superpower.
mhm.
So it's like, it's like finding those like personal touches and those personal nuggets that make it feel real and make the characters feel authentic. And then you can throw in all the crazy robots and sci-fi on top of it. Like, so, but yeah, first and foremost, start your story with something personal. Like take something like I was a pizza delivery driver and I delivered pizzas on the busiest pizza day. And I was like, well, there you go. There's a personal story. And, it's not about me, but it's like a day I experienced and things about working at Pizza Hut that no one else like experienced. So
Yeah. Just like going back, another question popped in. Adela is asking, in an ideal world, where would you be in 10 years?
Hopefully on vacation.
Yeah, you're doing a lot of promotion for your books right now.
Yeah. But it's great. I mean, it's like I can't complain. It's like I get to draw cartoons for a living. Like
Yeah.
there are worse ways to make a living. Like,
yeah, especially it's like coming from a Latinx family, it's like you could be like a doctor or a teacher or a lawyer, and it's just like I just want to draw comics. Is that cool?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Growing up, my family was like, "Can't you be a dentist and an animator? Like, is that possible?" It's like no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like some of us are just really fortunate to have like either teachers or relatives who are like, just keep drawing, like just keep drawing. It'll go to somewhere or something. And like I'm a librarian who gets to talk to other people about art. Like
yeah. That's a dream. Yeah.
I'm really loving the color spread on this, like the bright neon, like
Thanks.
Like Slimer green and like this lovely like magenta, like yes, color theory, you win again.
Yeah, I'm very persnickety with color. Yeah. Oh, and here's Bosco, my dog. He's
that was a question I accidentally skipped. Rita was wondering if the characters in his novels inspired after Bucky and Bosco.
Yeah. Bosco, I actually named him in the book. Yeah. So yeah, he's in that one, and then Bucky is in this other thing I'm doing for Nickelodeon called Party Animals. So yeah.
Aw, little fuzzy that's like looking out the window.
Yeah.
Natalie had another question. Did you ever think your only option was to quit art? And if yes, well, how did you get out of that low period? I might have already asked you that about how to get out of that creative rut.
Yeah. It's really just keep going. And it's really like, well, like what else could I do? Like, I have no idea like what other job I could even like do. And I don't know. Yeah. Sort of like painting myself into a corner.
Yeah. So this is a bit of a spoiler alert for Chunky, but there is a scene where you're going to build something. You're like, I'm going to build it and it's going to be great. Yeah. And then you look and
nearly chop off my finger, and that's real. Like I still have a scar. Yeah.
So was that your drawing hand, or was that like the opposing hand?
It was the opposing hand. Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, wait, he's an artist. Hold on.
Yeah. No, thankfully, because I was holding the saw with my drawing hand, and then I was holding the piece of wood with the other, and then that's how I nearly chopped off my finger. But like when I played football, and this was not in the book, when I played football, I actually hurt my hand, and it was my left hand also. again, but I thought like, oh crap, like if I wind up hurting my right hand and can't draw anymore, then I'll be devastated. So that also was another factor into quitting football, because I was like, I don't like it that much. I don't like having to hit people and be aggressive. And if I'm that worried about like not being able to draw again, like maybe I need to like stick to drawing. Like, yeah. So it's almost that Chunky is kind of like that inner voice also, like pushing me, like, you know what the right thing is, like keep drawing, keep being funny, like you're not happy in football. So
yeah. That sounds like an answer to Arusiak's question. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself?
If I could go back in time, I would probably have moved to Los Angeles sooner and try to get, because what I tried to do was start an animation studio in Austin, Texas. And, we lasted about 8 years, and we made like music videos and commercials. And that's when I was like pitching my shows, but it was way too hard to like manage a business and generate all the creative myself. So I probably would have, instead of doing that, gone straight to LA, worked in animation at a younger age. Because it's like what I said about like art school, like it's all about building your crew. So if I had moved to LA sooner, met a bunch of younger animators, and then we all rose together, then it would have been easier to sort of like get jobs on shows and like hop from show to show. Yeah. So it's, networking and making friends in the business you have is really important. And that's sort of what I did in comics also, like going to these comic book conventions and meeting other people. And then, they hear of like, oh, this publisher needs this kind of book, and that's what you do. Like it's all about networking and the people you meet along the way.
Yeah, that's where I learned like the power of a business card, like having the power of a business card or an ash can or a zine and just saying hi. And some ventures didn't work out, but I made a lot of friends too.
Yeah.
Like build up that crew and build up that team for sure.
Yeah.
So I have one last question from our teens that's been pre-submitted. Natalie wants to know, what is a new form of art you would like to try? And the examples that they put down were writing, acting, etc. I think they know something.
It would be fun to like go back to acting. Like I feel like doing some voiceover stuff. For my Nickelodeon pilot, I did all the scratch audio for it, so I was doing all the voices and acting. I was like, this is fun. Like maybe I should try like my hand at this more. But yeah.
My friend was doing. There's a cartoonist who work out with Sacramento Public Library. His name's Eben B. Burgoon, and he was doing animatics for a while. And it was just like. It was just him going like pew, 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 and like gremlin sounds. And I was just like, dude, I think you have like a backup job.
Yeah.
Of like just acting out your comics.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's like when you see like a casting director like work with the actor, and it's like, I have to read the script as boring as possible. So the other person's like character comes out really loud and across. It's like, move. I can do this. Hold on. This is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, so Yehudi, those are all the questions we have from the teens.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for being part of our first ever Artist Alley segment. Are there any things you want to promote or cover before we sign off?
Follow me on Instagram. That's probably the best way to follow me. It's at Supermercado Comics. And then my website is supermercado.pizza. Instead of .com, I paid extra for the .pizza. So, pick up Chunky that just came out, and then look forward to Sci-Fu Book 2. I think March is when it's supposed to come out. I think, And hopefully we'll have conventions back by then.
Are you gonna be doing any like Comic Con? Like I know we're like in the midst of like San Diego Comic Con. Are you gonna be doing any panels or anything like that?
No, not for
this weekend.
No, not for that. I think I'm gonna do. I've been trying to do more of the like library and kid lit events. So I think I need to get back to them, but I think I just got into the Latinx Kid Lit Festival. So
dope. That's our scene.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. Are you going to be doing the Latino Comics Expo? That's kind of like a little indie
Yeah,
one.
probably not in person, but like, yeah, I need to
Okay.
see if they're going to do like virtual events.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
really cool to see you. We actually have some artists coming up later in our series that I've met through the Latino Comics Expo, and it's
Nice.
a really cool niche to be a part of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so producers, like, please drop in the
Yeah.
chat
Yeah.
for our
Invite me.
teens,
Yeah.
Yehudi's information for social media and all the deets. Once again, let's give it up for Yehudi Mercado coming out of like Los Angeles today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, thank
Sunny
you
Burbank. Yeah.
so much for joining us today. Once again, this is Sacramento Public Library. I'm Monica. I'm librarian over here. Sacramento Public Library, where reading and books are just the beginning. Join us again for next week for anime trivia and our feature artist Allie. Thank you again to Yehudi, and don't forget to drop by your local branch, get your free book. Yehudi's book Chunky is part of our summer reading prize books this year for summer reading 2020. So if you've read 5 books, come on by and get your free copy. And if we don't have it, we'll make sure we get it for you. So yeah,
Awesome.
Thanks again.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. This was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.